MZTV.
Greetings everyone. Today you're going to get 2 shows for the price of 1 at no extra charge to you. I'm in an extremely generous mood today, and so let's see if I can actually make good on the boast. First of all, I'm going to talk about the debate held on Tuesday evening, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. I usually do not make commentary that will age badly, and this is going to age badly because in a week nobody's going to even think about this. But the spiritual point I'm going to make concerning it is timeless. Next, I am going to talk about the ratio between law and grace, about those tens of thousands in Jerusalem that were zealous for the law. I'm going to compare it to those who were zealous for grace and make a startling point concerning that. All right, welcome to the show. This is MZTV. I am loaded for bear, ready to go here. So, the debate. Honestly, all we've been hearing is how Donald Trump is playing 4D chess, and he's got everybody on the run, and there's this intricate plan that is in operation, that is being executed step by step by step. And yet what we saw at the debate was a man who really lost the debate in a very stupid way. I hate to say this. Now, Donald Trump lost the debate. He's not going to lose the election. No, he's not going to lose the election, but he did lose the debate. Donald, you knew that she was going to bait you, to try to get you to defend yourself, to insult you because you can't stand that, and so you're going to naturally rise up and defend yourself, waste precious time instead of bringing up the issues and comparing your administration to hers, which is an easy sell. Her ideas suck, yours are great. Folks, I love all of Donald Trump's positions. Her positions are awful. 98% of human beings agree with the positions of Donald Trump. The rest of those people believe the lies of the other side. And this woman lied and lied and lied and lied. But you wouldn't know it because Trump got sidetracked. He was flat-footed. He did make some points, but he had so many missed opportunities. And I was frustrated the whole time watching this guy. I felt like I could have done a better job of defending his positions. Donald, people think you're mean and you're angry. So why not sit back? Why not get angry? And why not just calmly tell us what you did do for the country and what you're going to do for the country again, and differentiate for the audience your positions as opposed to hers. But you didn't do that. You must have ignored every political advisor that you have, every debate prepper. It's like you were off the cuff, like you didn't have a plan, like you just strutted in there like, I can handle this, I can handle this. Usually you can. Donald, you're a great people person, one-on-one. I mean, don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen, this man has the balls of a rhinoceros. Nobody can withstand the withering attacks that they have perpetrated against him. Nobody could have sustained this except one man, Donald Trump. I mean, and now I'm going to turn the page here and say that I believe it's supernatural. So what we saw on the debate stage was Abraham trying to produce Isaac. And to me, this just explodes to bits all these theories about Trump playing 4-dimensional chess and being 10 moves ahead. A lot of the Q stuff about this intricate design that's being worked out by these geniuses behind the scenes. And yet that was the result of it. No, ladies and gentlemen, what we are going to see after Trump is elected is a supernatural enablement to bring about the peace and prosperity that we know is necessary, at least for a short time, and that we know is a must happen for the man of lawlessness. The man of lawlessness, again, must be a catalyst for prosperity and for good. And the things that Donald Trump espouses are those things. Not everybody's going to agree with me. I'm going to move on from this. But I'm just saying that for me, this proves once and for all that this man he's smart. He's smart, don't get me wrong, but he's not a super genius. And so the things he's going to accomplish in his second term, I mean in the first few weeks of his second term, will not be due to some superior genius. It will be due to God removing all the roadblocks that stood in the way of previous presidents. We saw this in the first term as well, the Abraham Accords. And of course, we're going to see a major treaty in the Middle East, and Trump is going to broker it. I mean, for all the indelicate moments of that debate, we know that Donald Trump is a magnificent negotiator. The art of the deal. He knows how to broker deals, and he is going to be the man who is going to broker the deal that Daniel prophesied of concerning giving Israel a place of peace, rest from her enemies, where she will be able to build a temple. It doesn't have to be a magnificent temple, doesn't have to be on the site of the domed rock. But there will be one, and it will be because of this man. And so that will be Abraham producing Isaac. What we saw on the debate floor was Abraham producing Ishmael, the son of bondage, the effort of the flesh that failed. The reason I say this is not going to affect the election is because many people are seeing that it was Trump against three liberals, three radical leftists were on that stage. Kamala and the two debate hosts, the two moderators. It would be like Maduro debating the opposition, and the moderators are Maduro's wife and his brother. That's what we were looking at. And so the deck was definitely stacked against this man. It was just another example of the powers that be, the powers that want to tyrannize the world and bring a one world government. It was another example of how they will stop at nothing to get rid of this guy. And yet they can't. They can't. I'm telling you, at this point, it's supernatural. But there's also something natural about it, and in that people generally rally against an underdog. And when they see the unfair lawfare against Trump, he's definitely become the underdog. And the more they've done this, the more the opposition has done this, the more popular Trump has become. And this is going to happen again. Because again, besides Trump's underperformance, one of the major takeaways is that the moderators were so obviously biased. And this is eventually going to work against them. From what I'm seeing, nobody's vote moved after this. So our man is on track. It's not everybody's man, I know. But if you want the tribulation to happen, and if you want the snatching away, which we know has to happen before the tribulation, then we need to put this thing in the fast lane. And Trump back in the White House is putting this plan back in the fast lane. Or it's been in the fast lane, actually, since September 23rd, 2017. The great sign of Revelation chapter 12, which, not strangely enough, was 7 years ago this month. 7 years ago. 7 is a big number in God's plan. Do I still think the snatching away could be in the fall? Yes, I do. And I've given you my alternate opinion of January 20th at noon at the last Trump. But we are looking down the barrel of deliverance. And so if anybody like me was looking for Trump to just knock it out of the park, he didn't. This, to me, is God telling us that what this man does from this point forward is going to be supernatural. Supernatural. We saw Ishmael. Now we're going to see Isaac. And when Isaac comes, we're going to know that it is the enablement of God. And now, show number 2 begins right now. I'm not going to play the theme song again. Maybe I should. But I read a verse to you in Acts chapter 22, and I want to milk that because there's much more significance here. Chapter 21, verse 20. Now those who hear glorified God. Paul is in Jerusalem telling the leaders of the Jerusalem ecclesia what he's been doing among the nations. Besides, they said to him, quote, "You are beholding, brother, how many tens of thousands there are among the Jews who have believed." There's the thing. Tens of thousands of the Jews who have believed, but all are inherently zealous for the law. So these are circumcision people, but they actually believe in Jesus Christ, and there are tens of thousands of them. And I don't know if that's only in Jerusalem and its environs, but I don't see how it could be anywhere else because this thing has not had time to spread. So there's not just 10,000, there's tens of thousands. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 believers in Jesus Christ as the Messiah. And yet, they are all zealous inherently because it was the religion of their forefathers. They are all inherently zealous for the law. And as I said yesterday, we're seeing the same thing today. There are many believers in Jesus Christ. The difference today is they're mixing Paul in. You wouldn't have seen that at all in the Jerusalem ecclesia in the first century with these 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people. None of them were introducing any element of Paul's gospel into their gospel. That is a phenomenon. That is a danger that we have to deal with today. Paul saw the beginnings of it in Galatians. We know that. They snuck in constantly the circumcision, those from James trying to spy out the freedom of Paul's people. And again, Paul shut it down every chance he got. But my point here is that do we read of tens of thousands who are embracing the gospel of grace? And do we see any of the tens of thousands who are embracing the law, who are still embracing the law, even though they believe in Jesus Christ? Are we seeing any of them forsaking that? Let me answer both these questions. We don't see anywhere near these numbers with Paul's gospel. And you might say, well, it just hasn't had time to develop. Well, the circumcision hasn't had that much time to develop either, because it wasn't that long ago when Jesus Christ was crucified. In one day, they brought in thousands at the day of Pentecost. Was it 4,000, 5,000? In 1 hour, 5,000 came to the truth. So this thing was multiplying rapidly. God was doing it, of course. Of course God was doing it. And at the same time, or shortly thereafter, I don't know how many years interceded between the crucifixion of Christ and the call of Paul, but there hasn't been much time. But there's been enough of a similar amount of time that, seeing as how Paul has all the nations as his picking grounds, those in Jerusalem only have those in Jerusalem or the immediate environs as their picking grounds. Paul has the whole world, and yet we see so few people. When Paul calls out those names in Romans 16, greet so-and-so and so-and-so, Tryphena and Tryphosa, that is the Romans ecclesia. I don't believe Paul's leaving any names out. Those who grasp onto Paul's message did not number in the tens of thousands or even the thousands. We're talking in the hundreds here. And we could probably list on two hands the number of ecclesias that Paul formed, developed, taught with his few co-workers. There were probably 4 or 5 people who helped Paul. And yet, just in Jerusalem, I think we have these 50,000, I'm just going to say 50,000 people. And again, it ties into what I said yesterday, that it's more natural for the human to grasp onto a cooperative salvation, a cooperative gospel. And those who do don't tend to forsake it. And yet, what do we see in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 15. Paul says, of this is his last letter, of this you are aware, that all those in the province of Asia were turned from me, of whom are Phygellus and Hermogenes. He names two people, but all, not in one city, but on a freaking continent. All in Asia were turned from me. And I know people just in my brief foray into this work. 30 years in, I talked yesterday about Jim Baskin and his wife. There's two people who forsook Paul. Dan Sheridan, my co-laborer for years, forsook Paul. Mike and Denise Tellep forsook Paul. There are two other people that I don't want to name who forsook Paul. And then Paul goes on in chapter 4 of 2 Timothy 2. Demas, loving the current era, forsook me and went to Thessalonica. Crescens to Galatia, Titus to Dalmatia. Luke only is with me. I don't know whether I just have a hard time believing that Titus forsook the message. But it could be that Demas forsook the message. He loved the current eon. My point is that we actually have lists of people, and I can name people from my short life who have forsaken Paul. But we don't read of any of that in the circumcision gospel. We have Paul and Peter encouraging those. Paul does it in the book of Hebrews anonymously. But we have the letters of Peter and the letters of John, and we have the entire book of Acts showing how the leaders in Jerusalem, they encouraged people to hold fast. They weren't chiding anyone for departing it, because people simply do not depart a cooperative salvation. What they do is they depart Paul for a cooperative salvation. And I said yesterday, and I confirmed today, that it takes work to maintain grace, which is, again, so ironic, because when you speak of grace, you think of, oh, there's nothing easier than grace. No, that's not true. There's nothing harder than grace. And it's so easy to just slip into, to be seduced into a gospel of works, which is, in that day, the circumcision gospel. In this day, it's also the circumcision gospel, except, no, I would say that in this day, it's more the false gospel. It's more the mixed gospel. It's neither pure circumcision nor pure Paul. And I would say that the majority of Christians are, of course, of this mixed gospel. They're trying to, again, bring Paul down and bring James up, and they end up forming an amalgamation, an unholy mixture of law and grace that Paul pronounces the anathema upon. And then every chance I get, pronounce the anathema on. That's what we're fighting today. But I'm just astounded all over again at these tens of thousands. And these were the people that persecuted Paul his whole career. Not Jews like Bar Jesus and Paphos, not guys like that, but Jews who believed in Jesus Christ as the Messiah. It's these people who are zealous for the law. And really, we don't even read Paul using that word zealous to describe those who grasped his gospel. I mean, we're zealous, but are we? I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm zealous, but these law keepers, man, they are always anxious to go out and make converts. Johnny Green, again, trying to make converts, trying to take people away from Paul back into works of flesh. He's a perfect example. He's a perfect modern example of someone who's zealous for the law, is in no way is going to forsake that calling, because it's easier to look at your flesh, to monitor your flesh, to congratulate yourself on having gotten rid of sin in your life. That's much easier than an evangel of pure grace where you're relying constantly on God. And yes, we check ourselves, but we don't check ourselves in order to work more, we check ourselves to make sure we're not working at all. That is, not working in a manner that we think improves our standing with God and Christ. No, that's not our thing. And folks, that is a difficult thing to hang on to. I'm realizing more and more. You see these people in my life, and I look at these tens of thousands who, oh, of course they're zealous for the law. It's easier. And they call us lazy. Johnny Green calls me personally, lazy. Oh, Martin just believes in grace. Oh, buddy, it's tough, especially with guys like you in the world, trying to pervert, just like Bar Jesus, trying to pervert the proconsul in Paphos on the island of Cyprus from hearing the words of Paul. This is why we have to do this every day. I know that's why you're here, because of that human tendency. But God is greater than he who is in the world. God is greater than any seduction that can come in the form of, well, you should just worry about your flesh a little bit. You should try a little harder. We guard against that. And we continue to guard against it. And just as it's going to be a miracle when the man of lawlessness performs these feats, gets things done that no leader of the free world has ever been able to do. And again, it will be because God has removed the roadblocks. Referencing show number 1 today. God will remove the roadblocks from Trump. I saw on Tuesday night that he's not a super genius. Smart guy, not a super genius. Supernatural enablement. And we as well. We are only here every day. And we are holding fast to this faith every day because of supernatural enablement. And that's the only thing that's going to get us to the finish. But folks, the finish is right around the corner.